And turning to some breaking news, we have just learned that a formal lab has confirmed the suspicion that that white powdery substance found in the West Wing on Sunday was, in fact, positive for cocaine. The discovery led to a brief evacuation of the White House Sunday night. Joining us now is NBC White House correspondent Mike Memoli. So, Mike, where do things stand now? This is so unusual. You and I have covered the White House for years. I can't even fathom anything like this having been found before in the West Wing, and I go back to the 70s at the White House. So this is pretty wild.
It's absolutely extraordinary, Andrea. And this new conclusive test confirms what had been the preliminary field test conducted by D.C. fire personnel who were called in on Sunday night after the discovery of this suspicious substance by a uniformed officer in the Secret Service that was conducting a routine patrol of the White House. And so to recap on the developments that we've been reporting on yesterday, this was found, we understand, in a highly trafficked common area of the West Wing. It's an area where individuals, especially visitors, individuals who may be coming for instance, a private tour, might have been asked to leave some of their personal belongings before heading into more sensitive areas of the West Wing, which of course includes the president's, the vice president's office, some of the most senior officials' offices, as well as the press team and a number of deputies.
Join me here at Courageous Media, the Chris Highland Show. Lynn Turner, thanks for showing up. Really appreciate everybody being here. We got a great series of videos for you today. We got Dan Bongino as the deputy director of the FBI, who appeared on Fox today and was dishing on several major cases, including the Epstein case. But what really caught my eye was his focus on three cases that he thinks are of extreme public interest, as well as what he said about failed FBI director and utter life loser James Comey, who is now under investigation for inciting attempts at assassination of President Trump. So we got all that going on. So I want to dive into this. I started with that clip just to remind everybody, some of you who may have forgotten, that there was cocaine found at the White House back in 2023. Yes, that is correct. The Biden White House, the above reproach, not mentally incompetent, not saddled with terminal cancer for 10 years, never lied, no cover up Biden White House. I say that facetiously. So let's dive right in, because we know there was cocaine found. It was tested to be cocaine. They tried to initially pawn it off on, it was some tourist. Some tourist showed up with cocaine and they left it in a cubby. No, not really. And you'll also remember the ultra failed worst press secretary in history, Jean-Pierre, trying to lie about it. Check this out.
Irresponsible reporting about the family. And so I got to call that out here. And I have been very clear. I was clear 2 days ago when talking about this over and over again as I was being asked a question. As you know, and media outlets reported this, the Biden family was not here. They were not here. They were at Camp David. They were not here Friday. They were not here Saturday. They were not here Sunday. They were not even here Monday. They came back on Tuesday. So to ask that question is actually incredibly irresponsible. And I'll just leave it there.
Survey says wrong. That's strike three, and the GOP gets a chance to steal, in the words of Family Feud. No, according to the White House pool reports, the Biden family absolutely was there. They were there all weekend. So not only did you have the propaganda media trying to run cover for the fact that an illicit hard drug was found at the White House while the family was in town, while everybody was there, you also had the failed press secretary, Karine Jean-Pierre, trying to lie and say the family wasn't there. They were in full cover-up mode. That is correct. So they were lying about they were lying from multiple angles. Oh, it was found in a cubby. No, it wasn't. It was found in the library and moved. We now know that. The Biden family wasn't there. Oh, yes, they were. So check out this. We've got a great clip from the Benny Show where he had Susan Crabtree on talking about this very fact and what she heard from the FBI just recently in light of the fact that Bongino was on Fox. And we're going to get to his clip after this. So again, here we go. Thanks everybody for being here. Remember, like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share Courageous Media with everybody that you know. Here we go.
So we just had up on screen, I want to pop it back up, Dan Bongino as a Secret Service agent. To my knowledge, this is the first time that we've had a Secret Service agent rise to such high ranks inside of the FBI. Dan Bongino just said 24 hours ago that his top priority is the cocaine at the White House, one of them. His top investigative priorities is the cocaine at the White House. Since you're ready to break news on this, could you preview just a little bit about what we're about to learn about that cocaine at the White House? What does the cover-up entail, Susan?
Yeah, so I believe that there was two pieces of evidence. There was the cocaine baggie itself, and then when they tested it, they found DNA. They found some DNA on it, so there was an envelope with tubes of DNA in it. And so what we want to know—
someone's nose had been in there, right? Someone's nose or finger had been in there, yeah?
Yes, exactly. Or the fingerprints on, and yeah, maybe it was the nose. But all I know is there's these 3 tubes. They destroyed— I have FOIA documents that show that the cocaine itself was destroyed right after the investigation was shut down around July 13th. And this had happened. They found the baggie on July 4th that weekend. I think it was a Sunday before the July 4th weekend. So there was very few people at the White House. So they could have gone over the visitor logs and the staff logs to know who was in the White House, because we know who is in the White House the whole time. So it wasn't the entire staff. They told us— The Secret Service told us they could not, that there wasn't enough DNA evidence to test to really make that hit, and they didn't want to interview. It would be a civil rights violation to interview all of the White House staff. Well, not all the White House staff had to be interviewed. So that was a lie. There were several lies that happened. There was so many different places where they moved. The first they announced they called in, which is unusual. They called in the Washington Fire Department, Metropolitan Police and the Washington Fire Department to do hazmat, because they thought that the only reason why we know about this baggie of cocaine, because usually the agents I've talked to said if we find a baggie of cocaine around the family, we just destroy it. But they thought it might be a biohazard. They thought it might be anthrax. So they called in the Metropolitan Police, and we have a dispatch saying, hey, we found it in the library of the White House. But then they moved it to a cubby that had more access from the West Wing access. So then people thought so that there would be more access to the staff. More people that it could be attributed to. So there were several lies that I'm taking a close look at, and there's also lots of concerns about retaliation. The people within the Secret Service, there's rules and protocols that they have to abide by to hold this evidence. Some people who said we need to hold it and not destroy.
All right, so you've got already several lies that we now know about. Because we have Bongino as deputy director of the FBI, we now know that the cocaine was destroyed, but we now know that it was not found in a cubby. It was found in the library. It was moved more than once. We also know that they have DNA evidence. So they could simply test everybody who was in the White House, and they will know exactly who came in contact with it. We now know that. So hopefully Bongino, and we'll listen to his comments as he vows to get to the bottom of this, we will understand where this cocaine came from, who it was for, who touched it, and now even more importantly, what agents of the Secret Service, the FBI, and the Biden White House were involved in the cover-up of this crime. Having cocaine on a federal facility is a crime. So we need to get to the bottom of this. And I want to play Dan Bongino's comments. And you busted Half Nickel Swamp. Thanks so much for your comment. Yeah, we got demonetized twice. So we have 2 channels now. We have the Chris Highland Show, which we're going to repurpose really for, we're going to start doing a lot of our apologetics over there. So it'll be more faith-based. We're talking specifically about religion and cultural issues. This will be our political channel. That's what it was built as. But we've gotten back to the point now where we are no longer blocked by YouTube. We're no longer forcibly demonetized. Now we just have to work through a little bit of a process to get fully back up and running. But thanks so much for asking that. No, I was demonetized under the Biden administration. I was demonetized back in October and then again in December. So demonetized twice under Biden. All right. So let's dive into, we've got the specific clip from Bongino talking about this cocaine story and the 3 stories that he's most focused on, which I think is extremely salient to talk about. Then we're going to dive into the larger portion of his interview where he talks specifically about Comey. All right, so here we go. Dan Bongino on cocaine in the White House.
So we had to fix it and rebuild public trust. One of the ways to do it is these cases of significant public interest that matter. You know, we had 2 pipe bombs planted on January 6th. I mean, we were told by partisan actors out there this was the insurrection, the world was going to fall apart, and no one seemed to show any interest in this case. The second we got in, I put a team on it, and I said, I want answers on this. And I'm pretty confident that we're closing in on some suspects. We got to. The reason, by the way, I use social media with these cases, I'm trying to communicate on social media, is nothing's by accident, guys. I do nothing by accident. Every time I put a tweet out on it, we get tips. We got a fascinating tip on one of these cases, one of the 3. I don't want to say which one, but I'm pretty confident that we're going to close out one of them, hopefully shortly. And then the cocaine in the White House, you know, I saw someone on social media, which is fine. Everybody's entitled to an opinion. We work for you, but said, I don't care about the case. Yeah, I do. I was a Secret Service agent. A potentially hazardous material made its way into the White House. Nobody seems to know how it got there, and nobody seemed to investigate it fully. Like, you know, what planet do we live on where that's not of public interest?
It is absolutely a public interest. I want to know who brought it in. I want to know who it was for, and I want to know who was involved in the cover-up. And they all, now, look, I don't want to just know. They need to be held to account. They need to be prosecuted. That's what's most important. There has to be real material losses for anybody involved in this nonsense. He's absolutely right. So he's talking about the 3 cases, the J6 pipe bombs, the cocaine in the White House being 2 extremely important ones. Now, there's other cases that I think are of extreme public interest. And he's going to talk a little bit. But the Epstein case, as I think, is of extreme public interest. And it's not so much did he kill himself or not kill himself. Okay, that's irrelevant to me, actually. And he's going to talk about that. No, the bigger issue with the Epstein case is who are the Johns? Who are the predators? And they all need to be outed and held to account. So right, let's dive into the larger Bongino interview, which I think is really interesting. So here we go.
Faced with this interesting thing, but I've known you since I was a kid. And I know your instinct is to swing back, but you promised that you weren't going to do that. You promised that you were going to get rid of the partisanship and you were going to go back to being a law enforcement officer. Yeah. You went in there and there were some cases that were closed or still open that a lot of the public felt a little sketchy about. The first assassination attempt against President Donald Trump. It's like, is he really the guy? What happened with Epstein? Can you say with confidence, as a lot of people, you used to be their guy when it comes to podcasts, appearing on Fox News, but now as a law enforcement officer, can you say we have all the information?
Well, I'm never going to say we have all of it. And people ask me all the time, are these cases closed? And whether they're closed administratively is irrelevant. If new tips come in, we're absolutely going to follow them. And that's why I always put out, if you have additional information, please let us know. Those 2 cases obviously are of significant public interest. I'm just telling you what we see in the file. I just want to be crystal clear on this. I am not asking anyone to believe me. I'm telling you what's there and what isn't. Right. There is nothing in the file at this point on the Epstein case, and there's going to be a disclosure on this coming shortly. We are working through there is video. That is something the public does not know. There's video
of him killing himself.
No, not the actual act, but the entire MCC Bay, it was only 1 camera. There's video that when you look at the video, and we will release, that's what's taken a while on this, we are working on cleaning it up to make sure you have an enhanced, and we're going to give the original so you don't think there were any shenanigans. You're going to see there's no one there but him. Right. There's just nobody there. So I say to people all the time, If you have a tip, let us know. But there's no DNA, there's no audio, there's no fingerprints, there's no suspects, there's no accomplices, there's no tips, there is nothing. If you have it, I'm happy to see it. There's video clear as day. He's the only person in there and the only person coming out. You can see it.
So there's three cases that you're looking at, the two D.C. pipe bombings, the Supreme Court leak on the Dobbs decision, and the cocaine in the White House. You say one of them, within a day or two, we're going to have a major...
Again, I don't care. I do care. Whether Epstein offed himself or not is not the big issue. The big issue is, who were his government contacts? Who was he working for? The CIA, the Mossad, some other group, all of them together. We want him because it was more than just him by himself. But even more importantly, who are the Johns? Who were the people who were being blackmailed with all this information? He had cameras in every room in his house, on Epstein Island, everywhere else, in order to gather evidence. That's the evidence we want to see. We want to know who participated in the exploits with children, and we want them prosecuted. Now, on to more Bongino.
Major break?
Well, we got a good tip this morning. We're going to run it out. We're not going to be able to make that public, obviously, right away, because we have to make sure, and we have to go all the proper steps. What I don't want to do ever, and I've said this before, it's not an excuse. I can't say to the public enough. I put it in my tweets all the time. I'm not asking you to trust me. Nothing drives me crazy when people go, they're asking us to trust a plan. I am absolutely not. Read my tweets. I don't want you to trust me. I don't. I'd be nice.
You'll have evidence.
All I care about is results.
So let's talk about what the president wants. He clearly wants a result. When he told Brett Baer on the assassination attempt, he's got questions on the first one. Watch.
There's a lot of frustration that we still don't know about that shooter in Butler. And we don't know about his communications. Will we get transparency?
I thought it was strange. The one guy had 18 cell phones. Okay. I have a lot of cell phones, but I have like 2. I call that a lot. And I think I probably make more calls than him. They live outside of Butler in a little place. Where did they get this lawyer that would represent IBM and would represent ExxonMobil?
But you're the president. Can't you find out?
No, Secret Service. They tell me it's fine. But it's a little hard to believe, to be honest with you, okay? It's a little bit hard to believe as I get that throbbing feeling.
So, Dan, the question is that a lot of people have wondered is, did this kid have help? He could not have pulled it off by himself. Was there a foreign actor? Did someone provide him with the weapons? Was there chatter online?
Well, let's be clear here. There are two separate parallel tracks here. Foreign actors targeting people in the United States. And it's not just the president, it's others. That is a very real track. The question is, do they intersect? The case file now, which, by the way, we are going to make another public release on this coming up. We're just kind of finishing up the product now to make sure it's tight and put together. You're going to see a lot of what you've heard about online does not exist in the case file. I'm not telling you information may not surface later. We do the PDB, the President's Daily Brief. We get the same brief, me and Cash, every morning. We have warned people out, telling them if there's something there we want to find. They have shaken every tree on this.
You mean you talked to his classmates, you talked to his family, you've talked to everyone, because they evidently they burned the body, cremated, and they cleaned the whole house out.
Yeah, and here's the thing. There are, like with the Epstein case, for example, we have a number of significantly odd abnormalities that would make a normal person go, huh? What? Mm-hmm. If Lawrence is near his bank at 4 o'clock and the bank gets robbed, but we know Lawrence reported to work afterwards and has an alibi, the fact that the bank was robbed, it's a fact that Lawrence was there, but it's not evidence that Lawrence committed the crime. Mm-hmm. Things, really, really bad things happened in this case. But when you see the report we're going to release, you'll see that not everything you've been told is true. But the president...
That's fine. If they release the information and it's fully transparent, then it's fully transparent. If somehow this kid worked alone, which I still do not believe, but hey, the evidence is the evidence. But that means you've got to release who was he FaceTiming with right before the shots were taken. You have to release that information. You can't just say, well, it wasn't important. No, the American people are not going to sit still for that. No, not when everybody thinks that there is a big, grander plan behind this. Now, the last thing I want to get to in Bongino's interview was when he actually dished on Comey. I thought this was the thing that absolutely made me sit up and take notice of this whole interview. This is absolutely amazing. Check this out.
I got to tell you, of all the things that have surprised me in the close to now 3 months I've been here is the depravity of Jim Comey. This man is a disgrace to the badge, the FBI, and the country. What he's doing right now, one, going out and taking shots at Cash. Cash doesn't belong. Cash was the chief of staff at the Department of. Cash is a patriot. Cash has served in numerous high-level roles, taking personal shots while you're on the beach, implying a threat towards the president and blaming your wife about it. And let me just add about James Comey, Saint Comey, who walks around there moralizing to everyone how wonderful of a human being he is. What you said is absolutely accurate. We have wasted countless man-hours now running out tips to our tip line about people putting 8647 because of Jim Comey, because he cannot control himself and his emotions. He is a child. He is a big child. And let me tell you one more thing. Look at Jim Comey, who wants you to believe. Jim Comey taking a shot at the president. Oh, look at me, I'm such a victim. The president's going after me. He's making a ton of money on this book. The only person that got prosecuted was the president. Jim Comey, we're finding stuff even now. I got to tell you.
I thought that was really amazing what he said. The thing that has surprised me most is the depravity of Jim Comey. That's a pretty strong word. Not just, how dishonest he is, how corrupt he is. No. The depravity encompasses it all. The depravity of Jim Comey, just how low and evil and corrupt and maniacal Jim Comey is. And just to give you an idea, here's Jim Comey on CNN today talking about this very thing.
Something supported by a lot of conservatives out there. What do you make of this?
It's a little confusing to me, honestly. I'm sure it's a huge adjustment to go from being a podcaster to being the deputy director of the FBI, but I don't understand this tweet. First of all, I assume that the investigation of the pipe bomb that was found on January 6th was never closed. The FBI never closes such a thing, so I guess it means they're going to focus on it more. And as to the...
You essentially closed it. You stopped looking for who the perpetrators were. That's closed. Whether you administratively close it or not is irrelevant. What matters is results and actions. If you tell people don't investigate this anymore, whether you administratively close it in a computer or not is irrelevant. It was closed as far as you were concerned because you didn't care who about the actual perpetrators. You probably knew who they were all along because I believe Comey was involved in a J6 cover-up. I think the whole thing was an inside op. It was a false flag, and Jim Comey was knee-deep in the middle of it.
The other things, I thought the Supreme Court marshal had investigated the leak of the opinion, the draft opinion. I don't know what the FBI's role is there. Cocaine at the White House, I thought the Secret Service investigated that, so I don't follow it and understand it. I also don't understand who the audience is for this tweet. The FBI often calls for public assistance or in matters of great public concern will announce an investigation to reassure the public. This seems much more narrowly targeted, maybe to a former podcast audience.
That's potentially what's going on. I want to get your also reaction to an exchange the new FBI Director Kash Patel had with Democratic Senator Patty Murray during a recent congressional hearing. Listen to this.
Director Patel, where is the FY 2026 budget request for the FBI?
It's being worked on, ma'am.
Have you reviewed it? Have you approved it?
Not yet.
When will we get it?
As soon as I can get it from my interagency partners and get it approved.
That is insufficient and deeply disturbing.
It's neither insufficient nor deeply disturbing. The budget's not ready yet. They've been there for 3 months. This is absolutely ridiculous nonsense. This is the gaslighting of the American public.
No response?
I've given my response.
Are you concerned that the FBI will still be able to fulfill all of its important duties with Director Kash Patel leading the Bureau?
I hope so. That I cringe at that clip. I actually feel kind of sorry for the guy. It's like showing up for a final exam with no pencils and no paper, and you didn't even know there was a final exam. And so I hope the career people are able to support the director and the deputy director. There are lots of people in the FBI who know what they're doing. I hope these two guys are letting them guide them.
You think they know what they're doing?
The career people know what they're doing.
No. The career people know what they're doing.
He's absolutely hoping that the career people take over, that Cash and Bongino let the career people, i.e. the deep state people, take over, because then possibly, maybe Jim Comey will stay out of jail. Because what should happen, Bongino and Patel running the show, is Jim Comey should be indicted and prosecuted for threats against the president, A, and B, all of the nefarious cover-ups that he instituted as part of the FBI, as the director of the FBI, including Crossfire Hurricane, the spying on the Trump campaign, and the whole Russiagate scandal. Those all need to be brought completely to light, and Jim Comey needs to bear the brunt of the accountability. So let's hope that the career people don't run the show and that Jim Comey ends up getting exactly what he deserves. Hey, thanks everybody for rolling up. Really appreciate you. You've got Reppins 12. You're absolutely right. Jim Comey has more crap with him than a sewage plant. 100%. Thanks everybody for being here. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share the Courageous Media show with everybody that you know. Thanks so much for being here. Remember, God is good and he is sovereign. It'll all be good in the end. Till I catch you next time.